Hi, welcome to the University of Vermont. This 25-minute module is designed to provide new employees with some basic information regarding UVM's compliance and privacy programs. First, let me introduce myself. I am Tessa Lucy, and I am the Director of Compliance Services and the Chief Privacy Officer here at the University of Vermont. The integrity of the university and the respect that UVM has is dependent on all of us. I'm hoping that when you are done with this module, you will have a better understanding of how the compliance and privacy programs can help us all commit to ethical behavior and to comply with our policies and procedures. So let's begin. I want to start with some compliance basics. It is not uncommon for people to not know what a compliance program is and what it is designed to do. While compliance programs have been around for 20+ years in other industries, such as healthcare and banking, and while they are more common for universities today than they were 10 years ago, they are still relatively new in higher education. You may have already heard about UVM's values, which we call Our Common Ground. Our Common Ground says that as a university, we aspire to be a community that values respect, integrity, innovation, openness, justice, and responsibility. What happens when we, as a university, are not adhering to our own values? What happens when leaders, and even when coworkers, are not adhering to these values? Where do you go and what can you do? This is where the compliance program comes in. So what is a compliance program? It is a program that is designed to foster a culture of compliance. Okay, so what is a culture of compliance? It is an environment that supports adherence to the law and to our institutional policies and procedures. It sets the tone for expectations, and it encourages and rewards ethical behavior. At its most basic level, a culture of compliance is doing the right thing even when nobody is watching. What do we mean by doing the right thing? What is right for me may not be right for you. So what determines where we draw that line? We start by looking at the law. If the law says we must do something, or says that we are prohibited from doing something, that is where we draw one line. Then we look at our own internal policies and procedures. If there is a UVM policy or a university operating procedure that says we must do something, or says that we are prohibited from doing something, that is where we draw another line. Often there is an overlap. Many times policies are in place because of laws and other regulatory requirements. And the lines are usually bright when it pertains to laws, policies, and procedures. We all have a responsibility not to cross those bright lines at all times. But not all lines are bright. There is a whole gray area of right and wrong. Situations that may seem right to you but wrong to them. Right to them but wrong to you. Situations that do not have the same bright lines that laws and policies have. Your compliance program is designed to help you navigate these confusing situations. It provides a roadmap on how to prevent, detect, and fix it when those bright lines are crossed. It is also designed to provide guidance if you ever have questions regarding those gray area situations. If it isn't sitting right with you, if it feels wrong, if you're just not sure, these are all the things that we sometimes have to deal with, and you should never feel alone. Actually, it's in this gray area where I receive most reports. Reports that start with, "Hey Tessa, my director is breaking the law," are very rare. Of course, we need to know if someone is violating the law, but in real life, reports like these don't happen often. Most of the time it's, "Hey Tessa, I need your opinion on this one," or, "Hey Tessa, I think we need to change how we do this." The federal government has provided guidance on what is needed for an effective compliance program. There are 7 elements that an organization needs to be able to show are included in the compliance program in order for it to offer the organization protections in the event of a violation. I won't go into detail for all of the elements, but I do want to touch on a couple. The first element is written standards and procedures. The main standard under this element is your Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards, or the Code. The Code is a university policy that has been approved by the Board of Trustees. The code can be found on the University Policy site. This site also contains all institution-wide policies and procedures. It can be found at www.uvm.edu/policies. That is where you want to go anytime you have questions related to a university policy or procedure. I want to emphasize this: www.uvm.edu/policies. This should be your first stop whenever you are looking for clarification on a university policy or procedure. The foundation of your compliance program is the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards. The code does not go into detail about every policy or procedure that we need to comply with, but it does provide you with a roadmap on what to do when you're faced with a difficult situation. It gives you instructions on where to report, and it provides protection from retaliation for anyone filing a report under the compliance program. Let me try and explain what is in your Code of Conduct this way. Here is your Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards presented by your friends down on Sesame Street. Things were so busy, there was so much to do, we were getting crushed by the weight. Something's old, something's new. We sat there and wondered, how much more can we take? We shouldn't cut corners, there is so much at stake. So many rules to comply with, yet we have to, we must. The risks are too great, we could lose public trust. I know it sounds corny and kind of confusing, but finding answers should be easy when we feel like we're losing. Your code has some tips that can help, it is true. A roadmap of sorts when you're not sure what to do. One of these tips, most important in my view, the reporting mechanisms that are there to help you. And if you think, no, I don't want to get involved, yet if I keep it to myself, it may go unresolved. Then again, it's not my problem. Why is this on me? Why should I have to speak up when I could just let it be? Well, let's answer that thought with tip number 2. We are all responsible for all that we do. We're also responsible for when we don't act. So if speaking up is right, don't ignore this fact. And because my tips always come in threes, number 3 is the code can help identify policies. We've identified areas that pose the greatest risk, and we've whittled it down to a manageable list. So let me take a break from Sesame Street for a moment and explain this in a bit more detail. While there are some common risk areas in higher education, every university is unique. There are challenges that we have here that other universities don't have, and vice versa. Our code lists out those areas that we have found to have the greatest compliance risks, and we've listed them and linked them. The first area that we've identified is around reporting and non-retaliation. As Bert and Ernie mentioned, the reporting mechanisms are the most important in my view, and as such, we not only highlight those in our code, we also have a separate policy and a separate website dedicated to reporting. We have a policy called Whistleblower Policy, Reporting, Protections, and Non-Retaliation. Through this policy, we have established multiple mechanisms for reporting under your compliance program. We have 5 compliance reporting options that include policy and procedure requirements, existing chains of command, to any member of senior leadership, directly to my office, and via the helpline. To break this down further, some of our policies outline reporting requirements. For example, our discrimination, harassment, and sexual misconduct policy contains a section called Options for Making a Disclosure. This section specifies where reports of sexual harassment and misconduct need to be filed. According to UVM policy, these reports must be made to the Office of Affirmative Action and Equal Employment Opportunity. If the reporter believes that a crime has occurred, according to the policy, they should report to police services. If reporting isn't specified in a policy, employees can report using existing chains of command. Nothing in the compliance program or code of conduct is intended to circumvent existing chains of command, and if you are comfortable reporting to your manager, supervisor, director, or to your labor and employee relations representative, you should. You can also report to any member of senior leadership. You can report directly to me, either via phone, email, in writing, or in person. All of my contact information can be found on our website at www.uvm.edu/compliance. And lastly, if none of these mechanisms work for your situation, you can always report using the Compliance and Ethics Helpline, better known as the Helpline. If you are ever not sure whether it's a compliance matter or not, contact my office. I may not be the one to handle it, but if it's not compliance related, I can point you in the right direction. The most important thing is that you do not keep it to yourself. Let someone know. If it's enough to make you wonder if it's a problem, it's worth reporting. The helpline is available to all employees at all times. It provides you with a way to make an anonymous report. It is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and to maintain the highest level of confidentiality, it is operated by a third party. You can find more information on the helpline, including the phone number and reporting website, at www.uvm.edu/compliance/compliance-reporting. The helpline provides all employees with a way to report suspected wrongdoing anonymously. There are some important things to note, however, if you do report anonymously. First, it is important that you check back in, that you follow up. In order for my office to do a thorough investigation, we may have questions, and the only way we can communicate with an anonymous reporter is through the helpline. Without contact information, we are unable to reach out directly to you. You have to be proactive and check back in. Don't think of it as done once you've submitted the report. With limited information, our investigation may be hindered. You did the right thing by making the report, even if it was difficult for you to do. Just keep it up. So remember, if you do file anonymously, check back in periodically. Respond to questions. Be an active participant. If you need more information on the reporting mechanisms or how to use the helpline, visit the compliance reporting website at www.uvm.edu/compliance/compliance-reporting. You should have received a copy of the helpline brochure also. If not, a link to the brochure can be found at that same reporting website. Let's talk about retaliation. Through many policies, UVM prohibits retaliation for anyone who files a good faith report. A good faith report is one that you believe to be true, regardless of what the outcome of the investigation is. If you report what you think is wrongdoing, and it turns out that we were unable to substantiate the report, this does not mean that the report was made in bad faith. A bad faith report, on the other hand, is generally one that is untrue and is generally made for no other reason than to get someone in trouble. A bad faith report is by itself a violation of the Code of Conduct. That can sound confusing, so let me try and explain it with an example. Let's say you saw someone hand over a large sum of cash to a university employee. You thought that it looked strange. Could that person have just accepted a bribe? Could they be selling university property? So because this wasn't sitting right with you, let's say you reported this to my office and we investigated. Our investigation showed that the UVM employee sold a car on Craigslist and had the buyer come pick it up during lunch. In this case, the report was made in good faith. You thought something was fishy, but it did not turn out to be any sort of wrongdoing. But if it did turn out to be wrongdoing, your report could have saved the university a lot of damage, so reporting it was the right thing to do. The bottom line to all of this is that if you're adhering to UVM's values and you are honest in your reporting, you will be protected from retaliation. If you think something is being done incorrectly or that a law or policy is being violated, report it. Use any of those mechanisms we discussed earlier. whichever you are most comfortable using, but tell someone. If you're asking yourself, is this right? Am I okay with this? Or I'm not sure what to do, look to your code and report it. So the bottom line to all of this talk is we all play a role in walking the walk. When you're faced with a problem, a dilemma of sorts, look to your code, speak up, file reports. We'll fix it together, it'll be a good catch. Instead of stomping out a fire, we can blow out a match.